Welcome to this episode of the RN to Writer Show, where we help nurses and other healthcare professionals become freelance writers. I'm your host, Elizabeth Haynes. I'm an RN and a former six-figure freelance writer. And today, what I do and love the most is coaching other nurses and all kinds of healthcare professionals on how they can become successful freelance writers too, make a lot of money, not have to work all the time, and basically build that dream life that they've always envisioned for themselves. Before I get started, don't forget that on YouTube you can expand the description box for any resources that I mention in this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Today we're talking about why there will never be a glut of nurse writers. Recently, a Facebook commenter asked me, if everybody hops on the health writing bandwagon, won't this just result in a glut of nurse writers and there really won't be any work for anybody at all? And I can appreciate that. I can also note that that's a scarcity mindset, which I don't subscribe to. But in a nutshell, the answer to that question is no, absolutely not. There will never be a glut of nurse writers in my lifetime, and possibly not even in your lifetime. And the reason why that is true can be summed up in a single word: volume. Let's take a moment right now together to appreciate and think about the vast volume of healthcare content required by the industry on any given day. Literally every health-related entity in the United States produces thousands of written words every day. So let's think about this in the form of a whole bunch of questions. How many health articles does the Cleveland Clinic publish daily? Think not only about their website, but their social accounts. Do they publish 10 items a day? 50? Someone has to write each and every one of those items. Now ask yourself, how many other health systems are there in the U.S. that are also producing a similar volume of content? Do the math for a second. Another question, how many diabetes supply manufacturers are there, do you think? Each of those has to produce patient information to accompany every type of supply they provide. Most of the time, in fact, each product requires multiple types of patient information, from a regulatory leaflet to web pages to social media posts, and on and on. Now let's think about this. How many companies produce and license these health condition encyclopedias you see on health system websites, where patients of the health system can look up things like diabetes? Who do you think writes each and every one of those encyclopedia entries on rheumatoid arthritis and gout and degenerative disc disease? How many thousands of those entries per year must be generated and reviewed and revised on a routine basis? And who's doing that? How many tech companies serve the healthcare industry? Hundreds, I'd say conservatively. And each of those companies needs writers to produce the dozens of blog posts, newsletters, brochures, sales emails, and everything else that they distribute to their existing clients, their prospective clients, and even the end users every day. Every day. That's potentially millions of words produced just in the health tech sector alone every year. Now let's think about something maybe a little familiar. What about magazines? Print or digital? I mean, even magazines without a specific health angle, like magazines that aren't specifically focused on health, they welcome health articles anyway. Every magazine will take a health article pretty much. And they will especially take health articles written by a clinician. So how many health articles do you think get published to digital publications every day? Well, I have an answer for you. If you type in quotation marks health article into Google, the search engine will return 4 billion results. That's billion with a B. And most of these results list individual publications, not even individual articles. Those publications could have multiple health articles. And also, did I mention billion with a B? And then what about continuing education for clinicians? I don't know about you, but my state requires me to complete a certain number of continuing education units every 2 years to renew my nursing license. And surely you don't think that all those modules miraculously spring to life of their own accord. No, someone writes them, every single one of them, and that someone gets paid to do that. And let's not forget about healthcare marketing agencies. In today's competitive healthcare climate, every provider and payer organization needs to compete for business, i.e. patients. And healthcare marketing agencies produce thousands upon thousands of content assets for clients every year, ranging from webinar slide decks to white papers to consumer health mini sites to private patient communities. And again, some human being gets contracted, usually, and paid to write that stuff. And if you're wondering who that is, it's people like you and me. In fact, every single example on this list is something I personally have produced and been paid for by a client. I came up with this list from my own experience as a writer, not from going out and doing research on the web to figure out what do people write. These are all things that I have written and been paid handsomely for. So those are just a few examples off the top of my head from my own experience to illustrate the sheer volume of health content produced globally every single day. Most of it written by some individual person like me, a freelance writer, typing on a keyboard in their home office. We're currently living in an information era, or an information universe, if you will. And like the physical universe, it will only continue to expand. The information universe demands the constant production of new content every minute, every day. The information era is not suddenly going to end tomorrow. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for those who want to enter this universe. And that, my friends, is why there will never be a glut of nurse writers. There's currently more work available than you can possibly imagine. There's more work available than there are clinician writers to write it. And there's only going to be more work as the years roll on. I hope that answers your question about why there will never be a glut of nurse writers in a nutshell volume. But if you have other questions about that, feel free to stick them in the comments section on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Turn the notifications on so you get the little ding every time we publish new content. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. This has been the RN to Writer Show. I'm your host, Elizabeth Haynes. I'm a nurse and former six-figure writer. I'd love for you to also discover this fabulous career. Check us out at rntowriter.com. And until next time, keep pitching.